Hi, it's Ileana, and today I'm going to be discussing how I do remote viewing. I approach it from a remote sensing perspective. I don't do traditional remote viewing that's taught through the military perspective, where you have about 4 to 5 numbers and the string of numbers is given to you and you have a blind, it's basically a blind closed target. The way I do my remote sensing, it's still remote viewing. It's just done a different way. I put together keywords or keyword phrases. So when I go to do remote viewing, I usually have a word target. Something like Peru, Lake Titicaca, Amaramuru. So I put my targets in phrases. I know nothing about what I'm going to be remote viewing in those places, nothing. I don't have any preconceptions about those targets. But if I'm interested in something, I set up my own targets, and they're not completely blind because they're not done in the number sequence, but they're not back-ended or backloaded either. Because again, I know nothing about what I would be remote viewing. If I'm curious about a target, I set it up and I take time to look at my keywords because I'm a very specific person. And the target, like, only have Peru, Lake Titicaca, Amaramuru. That's all I have, nothing else to work with. Once I know my keywords for my targets, I will get a piece of paper. I work with a pure white blank paper, 8.5 by 11 for the size, or 11 by 17. Sometimes it's larger, sometimes it's smaller. And I always use a gel ink pen. So it's like this. And you can get this at the dollar store, Staples, or any other store that sells supplies. I don't use a normal pen. This is gel ink pen, because it's 0.5 mm, so it's makes a very straight line, and it doesn't smudge so much as other types of pens. That's why I like ink, gel ink. And I only use black. I don't use red or blue or other colors. Those are distracting. I use black and on a white piece of paper. I don't use pencils. So no pencils, no normal pens, no eraser. Because once you put something that you have as a target from the impressions, you can't erase it or undo it. So you need to know some basic drawing skills, just your basic lines. So like mountains, water, circles, people, like basic outlines of people, sky, clouds. So you need to know how to draw basic shapes. And you need to be a bit confident in your drawing skills that you're not going to make a mistake when you draw something, because you can't undo it. What you put down on pen and paper in your remote viewing session, you cannot delete that or erase that. And you can't use whiteout either. What you put down is what you get. And before I start to do any remote viewing, I usually do a 30-minute mind clearing meditation where I clear all active thought or thoughts from my mind. I imagine that I have literally a blank slate in front of me, white blank slate that's free of any distractions, free of any thought forms, thought patterns, worries, fears. I clear all of that out because I can't have that coming with me into a remote viewing session. I also clear out any biases or preconceptions about anything. So when I go to do a remote viewing target and when I have my keywords, my simplistic keywords, I don't have any preconceptions about them, no ideas, no biases. I keep an open mind to the possibilities of whatever comes in for my remote viewing is what comes in. And that's what I put down with the ink pen, the gel pen, and the piece of paper. And that's it. And the piece of paper must be blank. You can't use a piece of paper that has something else written on it. It has to be a blank piece of paper always. So I do the 30-minute mind clearing, meditation, or protocol, whatever you want to call it. And I also put in protection. I call on my higher selves to provide for me protection for my soul and my physical body. My guardian teams, it could be angels, archangels, could be your spirit guides. It could be the universe itself, source creator, or positive beings, positive extraterrestrials. We all have guardian and protector teams that protect our soul and our physical body. And I also added an extra layer of protection by literally going inside myself and expanding my auric field, my energetic shielding, my electromagnetic shielding around the body. We all have it as we exist as energy and water molecules and physical body. We all have electromagnetic fields around our bodies, or you can call it the auric field. You expand that out literally around yourself. My colors are blue, white, silver, and also other colors. So I expand those out. It's like a ball of energy going out around myself, around my body and my soul. And I do this and I modulate my shielding, my protective energy shielding. I put layers into it. I do this so that my soul frequency and my body is protected in my auric field. So nothing can enter in that's not of the highest good. If there's any negative beings, negative frequencies, anything negative cannot enter in. Because when you do remote viewing, there's a lot of things out there in the universe that are not of the highest light, not of the good. It still exists in certain places. It could be interdimensional, multidimensional, other dimensions between planets, other realms, not on a planet, or it could be on planets or just in space itself. Because when you're remote viewing something, it could be a thing. So it could be a thing, a person, a thing, a person, an object. It could be matter. It could be beings. It could be anything. So 1, a thing, 2, a person, an object, a situation, a location, a planet, a galaxy, a universe. You can go in the past to remote view something. You can go in the present to remote view something, or even in the future. It could be anything, literally, or anyone that you're remote viewing. There's no limits of when you cast your mind out and you go with the soul to remote view. So again, putting in protection is very important to protect yourself. And layering your auric field and modulating your shields with the frequency colors, very important to protect yourself. so that things can't attack you and can't create energy wounds, can't infest you, can't possess you, cannot infiltrate you, cannot mind control you. You're protecting yourself, literally. You're setting up your protection mechanisms to protect yourself. This is what you're doing with that. And once you have that done and you're balanced, you're anchored and grounded, you should be in a quiet space where you're safe and you won't be distracted by somebody. Preferably in a room with a closed door. That's your private space, your own space, where the energies are clear, nice and clear and balanced. And you don't have any clutter on your table. So you just have your gel ink pen and your piece of paper and a flat surface that you can put the paper on. If you have a wooden desk or a glass desk, put some padding on it of some sort where the white piece of paper will be lying on, so that you can actually, when you're reading the impressions from the remote viewing, what you're getting as input when you're doing the remote viewing, your paper is on a flat surface that's stable and level, so you can draw your impressions. Then when we get to the remote viewing part, we have our little keywords, right? Peru, Lake Titicaca, Marumuru. So you write those down, left-hand corner or right-hand corner, top of the piece of paper, and try to write neatly, because you'll be reading your own descriptor, written words, which you write, setting up your keyword targets. So neat writing, set it up, write it down. Then what you want to do is take each portion of that keyword or keywords and start putting out your mind forward towards the target. So Peru, we're going to Peru. We're going to take our mind and focus it in on Peru. The mind and the soul goes. I put aside my logical aspects of the mind, though, because it can inhibit results of remote viewing, or any expectations, biases. You put those aside. You keep an open mind, a blank slate, and you set that forward, right? You put it forward, and you let the soul and the mind go to Peru. Follow the energy field to the location that you're looking at. We're going to Peru. So when we get to Peru, we're going to look around the shape of Peru. What is the shape? Is it natural? Is it man-made? Is it a solid? Is it a liquid? Is it a landscape or waterscape? Is there water? Is there beings there? You look at the surroundings, and those are called idioms. Those are called your drawing descriptors of the impressions that you pick up and that you put down on the piece of paper. When you're doing remote viewing, you always have your eyes open because you're focusing on the target. And you're drawing the impressions of what you're seeing. You're also writing down the written descriptors. And you can do the written part first. I actually recommend you do what impressions you first get, you write them down. Those are called written descriptors. And you do the idioms. Sometimes you start off with basic, simple idioms of items, of things, of people that you see. Sometimes it's very basic and simplistic when you first start out doing the remote viewing. It could be very simplistic, or it could be very, very specific of the impressions that come in. Whatever comes in, you write down the descriptors, the written ones, and you write down and you draw what you're seeing, what you're sensing, what you're feeling, what you're picking up as the impressions of the items that you're looking at. It can be places, people, things, different times. It's very interesting what you can pick up. You just put it down on paper, write it down, and draw it out. And if you're picking up on colors, write the color, what the color is. Write it down as the written description. And then you go to Lake Titicaca. And you look at Lake Titicaca. Where is it? What is it? What's there? And you can ask questions when you're doing remote sensing. Peru, for example, going back to Peru. Where in Peru are we going? Lake Titicaca. So if you don't have Lake Titicaca in Amaramuru, and if you're just practicing, right, in Peru, trust your senses, where your senses are taking you. If there's something specific in Peru that your mind wants to look at, go with it. Go with it and see what's there. Draw and write down the descriptors, the colors, the frequencies, whether it's man-made, natural, water, air, land, sky, whatever is there, write it down as the written descriptor or descriptors, your idioms, and draw it out on a piece of paper. And then go to Lake Titicaca. What's in Lake Titicaca? What's around it? What's in it? Have a look. Look at your surroundings. Do the 360-degree angle. Up, down, left, right, straight. And keep scanning. What your soul and the mind focuses on, that seems very important and pertinent. Write down your word descriptors and draw it out on the piece of paper with the pen. Again, there's no right or wrong. There's no mistakes here. Whatever the mind focuses on, that's what you put down. And again, your logical aspect of yourself is standing aside. It's not making any assumptions. It's not creating biases. What the soul frequency and the mind frequency focuses on, this is what you put down. Again, use your senses. Seeing, feeling, sensing, and smelling as well, touching, because it's all energy. You're looking at physical things, but you're looking at energy as well. So sense it, feel it, put it down, put down your impressions. Then you move on over to Amaramuru. And when you're doing remote viewing like this, you can ask what these things are, what the locations are, what's there that's important. You can form a question in the mind, and the soul and the mind will focus in on that. And you can say, what is so special about Lake Titicaca? What is so special about Peru? What is so special about Amaramuru? What is there that I need to see for my remote viewing? You can actually ask that, and your mind will focus in on it to give you the answer. And you write it down. You write down your descriptors, your written ones, and you draw it out. Again, no right or wrong here. What you see is what you get. You put it down. And you move over to Amaramuru. What is Amaramuru? You ask, what is Amaramuru? And what's the purpose of looking at it? What are you doing there? And the impressions that come in, you write those down and you draw it out. Look at your surroundings. Look at the landscape. What's there? What color is the grass? How high are the mountains or the hills? What is Amaramuru? Well, it's a star gateway portal. It's a carved door in a mountain, in the mountainside, and there's a carved keyhole to put a large key in it. That's what Amaramuru is. When I went to remote view it, I had no idea what it was. Somebody told me, oh, there's a place in Peru near some Lake Titicaca called the Maramuru. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to remote view that. I'm not going to go jump on the internet and see what that is. No, the internet is a knowledge library. You actually don't have to go physically to a library now and get books. You can easily type in anything on the internet, keyword search, and the answers will pop in. If I'm curious about something, I usually don't look at it on the internet. I remote view it. I have no idea what these things are, these places. It's just names. It has no meaning to me, no significance. And that's a partially blank slate. Even though I have a name of something, I still don't know nothing about it. And that's why I go to remote view it, to find out what it actually is. And I trust my senses and I trust my soul to give me the answers that way. So I look around Amaramuru. Yeah, there's megalith. There are megalithic structures there, stones. It's interesting. And it has carvings and symbols and hieroglyphs there. So those are interesting. There's also the door itself, door carved in the mountain with a large carved keyhole. Very interesting. So I put that down, all the information, the blue sky, those megaliths, those carvings. Lake Titicaca. What's under Lake Titicaca? Glad you asked. There is an ancient temple that's there. And the golden sun disk of Mu, which is a golden sun disk that has different dialing frequencies that realign the energies of the planet. So the planet does not lose its magnetic field and shift poles. This is what this golden sun disk of Mu realigns. And it also allows you to communicate with extraterrestrials. And what's under Amaramuru? The Meldakian tunnel systems. And the Meldakians were beings that came from the planet Maldak near Mars. It was a larger planet that got destroyed during that war 500,000 years ago. And it also went to Mars as well and almost stripped Mars of its atmosphere and almost destroyed the planet. So the Meldakians had come to Earth as well before all of that happened, and they set up the Meldakian tunnel systems. That's sort of part of the Atlantean outposts. It's all interconnected to those civilizations. And that's under Amaramuru. And Amaramuru is a star gateway portal. Those whose genetic DNA frequencies are coded to that specific door, they can go in through that way, or it opens up. Depends how you vibrate the frequencies to open it. I went in through astral travel and remote viewing. That's how I got in under it. And saw those Meldakian tunnel systems with holographic computers, different interfaces. There was also portal system technologies there, portal gateways, man-made. When activated, they go to the Andromeda galaxy, to one of the Pleiadian double-decker level space station that's white. That's where Andromedan Pleiadian space station. Yeah, so that's where it went. Many Andromedans, many Pleiadians. I actually went in and had a look. I went through the portal system under Amaramuru, then I went back under Lake Titicaca to the golden sun disk of Mu and dialed in those frequencies there and tried to go in through that way again. Not just the portal systems under Amaramuru, but also through golden sun disk, because you could do both. Those portal systems activate wormholes to go to the Andromeda galaxy, to the Andromedan and the Pleiadian space stations that have different beings. mostly Andromedans and Pleiadians. Those guys actually work together sometimes. So I got to remote view all of that, and I got to put it down on the piece of paper and describe it in detail. All the objects, the artifacts, what the locations look like physically. I got to see it all from 360-degree 4D angles. I see everything in 4D when I remote view. When I astro travel, everything is in 4D for me. So for somebody, it might be in 3D. For somebody, it might be in 4D. And this is how I do the remote viewing. Then when I'm finished, and I try to put as much detail as I can of the impressions that I get. Things might be flying at you fast in what you see and hear and sense and feel, like really fast. Try your best, do your best as much as you can to write down your idioms, your descriptors, written descriptors, and draw it out to the best of your ability. I also have a notes section where I put down impressions that might have nothing to do with the target itself that I'm remote viewing, but those impressions might be important. They might relate somehow to the target, or they might be about something else. For me, I treat everything as important because you never know. I have my main things, then I have the notes. And in that notes section, that's where I put those impressions that I'm not sure about. Are they related to the target or aren't they? Is it important? Not so important? To me, it's still valid. So I put those down. Those are possibilities. Could be possibilities of something, could be nothing. Never hurts to keep notes. So I have a little bit of a notes section on the bottom of the piece of paper. I leave a bit of space, blank space for those notes, and I put notes. So that's something else I incorporate when I do my remote viewing. And when I finish the remote viewing, afterwards, I close everything off and then I leave. I just put it aside for a while, and then I come back the next day or a couple of hours from then, come back to the stuff to look at it, so that, again, I'm not biased about what came in, what impressions came in from what we were seeing. That's what I put down. And I can't change it. I can't write over it. I can't erase it. I can't do that. I'm not allowed to. Whatever I put in is what I put in. And that's what that is. Then I come back to it later and I look at it again from a non-biased perspective. And I study and analyze the remote viewing data. And then I take the original piece of paper with the written descriptors, your idioms. Some of them might be more detailed, some less. And when you're doing your remote viewing as well, you can zoom in on targets with your mind. You can zoom in, just say, I want to see something closer, and zoom in with your mind on it, because it's all energy and frequency. You can easily do that. Zoom in, zoom out, 360 degree angle. Use your angles, work with it. Zoom in, zoom out, use your eyes. Use your senses, work with it. That's also important. So again, going back to the target, once everything is done, have a look at what you have, what you produced with the remote viewing. Then you take the original of your remote viewing data, you go and you scan the original copy so that you have another copy of it, save both scans, title them correctly, what you were remote viewing, title everything, because when you're saving it, you might be saving it as a JPEG or a PNG file. And I don't worry about size. I actually save what I scan in on my scanner. I save it in a high quality digital format. So I have a large file. The better your file, the larger it is, the better to look at it on the computer. I digitize everything that I remote view from the paper copy I make it digital, and I save 2 copies. The original copy that I scan remains black and white. The second copy I might color in actually later on using a digital program that allows you to put in color. Because when I'm doing remote viewing, I also put down the colors of everything that I see. Then I might color it in. It depends. So I have the black and white original version scanned in, then I have a secondary copy that I might color in, or I might not. But I keep a backup of the original. And I always keep my original written and drawn remote viewings. I keep it all in a folder, and I have it organized in categories. So I keep the paper copies and I keep the scanned ones. They're all labeled in their files, whether digital files or physical files. It's all labeled correctly. So I know how to find it again if I need it in the future for something. And some people actually, they use data pads or tablets with a stylus to do their remote viewing now. Or some people actually take colored pencils and color in their original remote viewing. I don't do that. I don't color in anything original that I get. It stays in black and white. What I get is what I get. I will scan it, then I will digitally color it in. Or if you absolutely want to use colored pencils or pens, again, scan in your original copy of the black and white ink pen remote viewing that you got from the session. Once you have it on the computer, print out another version of it and then color it in. Never color in your original, because if you make a mistake, that's it. You made a mistake, you colored in something wrong, you know. That's why I leave a black and white version of it, and then I make a secondary copy to color in, or make my own notes on it. When I do the analytical analysis of everything, I might make other notes on the piece of paper, but I don't do it on the original RV data. Never do that. And again, if you're using a tablet or an iPad with a stylus to do your remote viewing on, some people do it more traditionally and more modern way now. Traditional is the paper and the ink pen. Modern and traditional is tablet with a stylus or an iPad, and they just, you draw and you write. It's a similar experience, but I still prefer pen and paper. I like to do it the old-fashioned traditional way, old-fashioned. That's just me. I prefer to not be tempted to erase anything, because when you're doing it on a tablet or an iPad, you have the erase function. You can just go. I don't do that. Pen and paper, old-fashioned, because I never erase anything. Again, I might make notes on a secondary copy later when I'm analyzing it, because I'm comparing and contrasting data constantly. That's how my mind works. But I never change the original. Can't, against the rules. And coloring things in is an advanced addition to your original remote viewing. If you absolutely want to color it in, you do it after you finish your remote viewing session and after you finish your analysis. Then when you have everything finished in those steps, you could take the pure written data, you could put it into a Word document, and you can take the drawn descriptors and you could put it underneath the written data to present as a presentation. You could take it from the Word doc and put it in a PowerPoint, then make a video out of it and describe it for your audience. If you're making it public or just as a PDF file to share with someone or on a website. So you can take your remote viewing data and share it if you want. So this is how I do my remote viewing, remote sensing. If somebody asked me can you teach me remote viewing? I wouldn't be teaching you the traditional way of doing it because I don't do it that way. I find it somewhat limiting with the military numbers. It limits the scope of getting more data. To me, I get more data with remote sensing, and that's still remote viewing. I get the same results, I just do it differently, slightly. And again, I never know anything about my target. I might have a location, name of a location, I still know nothing about it. So it's semi-blind to me. A name of a location doesn't mean anything to me until I actually go and focus in on it and remote view it. Focus in with the mind and the soul. And I look around, I feel everything, I sense everything, I pick up all the impressions that are important. I do the written descriptors, which are your idioms, and then the drawing descriptors. You put also what colors it is with a pen, just right near it. You draw it, then write near it your impressions. Leave room for the notes. So this is how I do my remote viewing, remote sensing. This is what I call it, because it's not completely traditional, but you still get the same results. And sometimes I get to compare remote viewing data. If somebody else did a remote viewing of that, I never discuss openly the results of my remote viewing. I mostly keep it to myself. I hardly ever share it because I don't want anybody stealing this information. Sometimes if somebody else has done a remote viewing later on of the same thing that I have, I might get to compare notes if they make it public, but that rarely happens. And I do trust myself as a good remote viewer that what I'm getting is legit. I never doubt myself, because when you start doubting yourself, you might get wrong remote viewing bias data. Never doubt yourself and your ability. I also don't remote view things that I know information about already. I would never go to remote view my own house because I know what's in my house already. So I don't work with targets that I already have seen, heard about, that I have some information about, because that's being back-ended and backloaded with information. If you go to remote view something that you already know about, you're going to get the wrong results or mixed results. You're not going to actually get anything that's pertinent because you already know something about the subject matter that you're going to be remote viewing. So it's always important, even if you know the word of a location, you should know nothing. You should know nothing about the location itself and what's there. That's very important to keep in mind. So this is how I do my remote viewing, remote sensing. And there's many different sources where you can learn remote viewing. I actually learned it from the Farsight Institute from Courtney Brown's free lessons when he had that up on the Farsight Institute YouTube channel. Those have been taken down, so he no longer has that. But I learned my remote viewing from him. I just don't do the numbers. I just do basic keyword term of location or item or whatever, but I know nothing about it. I do it that way, and for me, I get more results this way. That's just me and what I feel comfortable with, but I could do traditional numbers, you know, military style, CIA style, what they taught. I can do it that way as well, but I prefer the remote viewing, remote sensing way. So I just wanted to discuss that process and my protocols for how I do it. So thank you so much, and namaste.